Okay, I'm at my destination. And shortly you're about to meet one of the most influential people in my life. What this person did for me was actually quite special. Only one camera right now. I was kind of half out of it as I was driving over here. Just often thought. But anyways, next cut, be an introduction to somebody that did a lot for me. Welcome into Kimberlee Dawn's waiting room. And you're about to meet one of the most influential people in my life. This is Kimberlee Dawn.
Hello, Scott.
How you doing?
How are you doing?
Not too bad.
Will we have to edit that when I said Scott?
Not at all.
Okay, good.
They all know my name.
Okay, right on.
It's one thing I've never hid in my videos is who I am.
Okay. Thanks.
I'll relax in a minute. So, as I was saying as I came in, this person here has taught me how to be human. A human I could understand, if that makes sense.
That's really nice.
When
I don't know what to say to that.
I've always, excuse me while I get set up here. I've always wanted to know what you did for me. And I never put it into words.
Okay.
So this is me putting into words what you did for me.
It's gonna make me cry.
That's all right.
Okay.
When I was younger, I was really confused.
All right.
People were so inconsistent.
I remember.
And the life I came from wasn't the greatest environment.
I understood that.
Yeah, family, friends. I did a little bit of a video today as I was driving around, and the friends, minus a couple, one person. He's actually my best friend today. One of my best friends today.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
And I grew up with them from
Yeah.
this. Sorry?
In this town here?
Yeah,
Right
he's
on.
actually now living in Airdrie also.
Right on. Okay.
So
That's really something, yeah.
it is. So we actually ended up in the same place.
Okay.
I'm getting a little hot, kind of nervous, just a little. Now, I wanted to tell you how I found you. You've never heard this story.
No.
Okay.
I never even thought of it, to be honest with you. I just thought that I thought you heard me on radio or something, and then you just, popped in, or that maybe your mother had booked an appointment for you to come in. That's how it usually goes down, right? So, what do they say about people that assume, right?
Well, you kind of got it right.
Okay.
But it's a funny story.
All right.
I was out in the garage one day. I was working on my motorbike. And there was a lot of things I was interested in. Astral travel, all that good stuff.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I was doing a lot of reading.
Yeah.
I was reading everybody.
Oh, okay. That might have messed you up right there, eh?
No. This is what I've always found is read as much as you can and look for consistencies.
Absolutely. I agree with you. And I think I taught you that in your beginner classes as well, to make sure that if you're going to do anything like that, you have to have a comparison. If you don't have a comparison, well, then what do you have?
Exactly.
Right? So, yeah.
Because what I found is there's also a lot of garbage out there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Should we put a percentage on it?
Go-
I'd say about 98%.
Oh,
I would.
I wouldn't
and I
argue.
mean, I'm always looking for good material to refer to my clients and to my students. or to use particularly in classrooms and lectures, I haven't been able to find any in years. And then they came out with this thing called The Secret. Well, that was just a whole compilation of everything we'd done in the 80s. I mean, seriously. I was even in there. My stuff was even in there. So, I don't know. I haven't been able to find anything original in a long time. Nothing that speaks forward.
Not at all.
Not really. That's sad.
Is.
That's a pretty sad thing to say.
Not arguing that. Not at all. So, just to jump back just a little bit. So, in my 20s, motorbikes have always been my life.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And so I was actually out in the garage, and you came on a radio show.
Oh.
I can't even remember. It's so long ago. Yeah. I can't even remember the radio show.
Okay.
But here's the funny thing. Someone called in, and they started asking questions. I started focusing on you so much, you started answering my question, not his.
Wow. So there's a reason why you're one of my students, though, Scott, too. Like, I don't take, shall we say, well, we have to be blunt, and it might sound elitist, because it does sound elitist. But, you're either born this way or you're not. And my students in those days had to be psychic, and we put you through a battery of tests first to find out if you were or not. And they were very clinical test groups, so this was not something where, we were taking anybody's money and allowing them into classes. If I'd have done that, I would be sitting real pretty right now. We didn't do that on purpose, and we made sure that those people were actually psychic. And there was, in total, only about 72 of you. In total, in all of my public years.
I can believe it.
That I took on as students.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now.
Came from everywhere, but
they
never rode bikes like you did, and they didn't drive up like you did. Okay.
Well, so here's the funny part. I didn't have a pen or anything.
Oh. Okay. So you were stuck in the garage.
Working on my bike.
And I'm talking to you. And
then the show's coming to a conclusion.
Oh, dear.
They do to contact Kimberlee Dawn, phone number, blah, blah, blah. Do you mind if I say your phone number? Or
no.
Do you want to say your phone number?
It's been the same phone number for how many years? Well over 30 years.
I know. So
780-479-5052. It's been the same number the whole time. What an easy number, I thought. 5052. Yeah.
So since I didn't have a pen, I actually scribbled it. I grabbed a screwdriver.
Oh.
No, you'll laugh at this. And in wood, because I did that, I've never been able to forget that phone number.
No way.
It's
kind of like in cement now, eh?
Exactly. Funny
That's
thing.
Pretty cool, man.
Funny thing is, there's been a few times, even if there was a hesitation with the mind, as in, what's your number? Because I usually pop around every couple of years.
Oh yes, absolutely.
If there's ever a hesitation, I just don't worry about it, and then bang. Oh, okay, yeah, I got the number. It's one of those things
stuck in your head.
It is.
But we had intense moments in our relationship, Scott. And I think that when you have intense situations like that, be they emotional or physical, and we've had both physical and emotionally intense situations, I think that's going to stick in a person's head. And when you came in to see me in the beginning, you weren't fucked up. I mean, seriously.
Okay, if you remember though, I did have the broken leg.
Yes, you did.
I was just healing.
But you weren't mentally deficient.
Okay.
You weren't mentally, and you need to understand. In my office, I see a lot of very mentally ill people that think I'm a psychiatrist. So we have to make sure that they understand, the gravity of what's going on here, that I'm a psychic with a grade 12 education. And then as time went on, I was one of the first people in Canada, the first psychic in Canada that was allowed to speak to the mentally ill at the Alberta Hospital, our institute. uh, which could probably use a lot of donations right now from what I'm remembering, okay, because it needs help badly. I was allowed to speak to the mentally ill, which was unbelievable. So I went and I supported their facility and earned money for them for for things they needed at the hospital, at the institution. And while I'm speaking to the patients' family members and medical staff and doing mini readings for them to earn money for them, a lot of the patients wanted to speak to me, and so they had a professional stand with me to speak to these people, and because I can't say their names or anything. And the professional gave, after quite some time, the professional gave the okay and made it quite clear that I was more than capable of doing that, that I was not hurting them.
Okay, gotcha.
That's a very serious thing. So I want to say, because a lot of people out there, when they're thinking of someone like me, they think that you have to be really messed up to go in to see somebody like that. That was the attitude back in that day.
Understandable.
And it was dangerous to come and see me. You really took a big risk coming into my office.
Oh,
you took a huge risk.
Okay, now this is one of the things I've been fighting.
But I want to make it clear that I know the difference between mental illness and psychism. Like, there's a difference, right?
Okay,
Right.
I know what you mean. But one thing I was fighting with a lot was always worried about the word freak.
Oh, yeah.
And it's one thing, I don't actually know how to put it. I'm digging for words right now.
Okay.
So there was always an aspect of me, and only a few people have sort of been allowed in this side of my life. They had to be very close. And I've sort of always, I've never denied who I was. But
Well, I asked you not to. I mean, I think that was one of our golden rules, wasn't it?
But I never pushed
I dig that.
who I was.
Yeah, I dig that.
They're
I
always-
also asked you to do that as well.
I know.
Yeah.
You even forced it on me
Yeah,
sometimes.
I'm sorry about that, but it worked out good.
So that's where I was always a little scared to publicly acknowledge this, the word freak, all that good stuff, but going
Freak
down
relating to what, dear?
more so society's norm. And as you know, you state some things, you get a lot of silly questions. You get
I do.
a lot of I don't know how to say this. You get a lot of resistance because you're expressing something that isn't seen as normal.
Yes, that's very correct. And that's what I'm saying by this is going to sound very elitist. When I'm saying you have to be born this way, it's not something that you can, tap onto your, get online and tap into the new age industry and, find some guru that's going to teach you how to be psychic. I think if you look at my website, which is not, it's not great on a cell phone. You have to take a look at it on a laptop because it's very large. You'll find that I never actually talk about allowing you or creating an environment for you to become psychic. You either are or yet isn't. And that's the way it is. It's like being born with a hair lip. You either is or you isn't. I mean, that is the way it is. And what upsets me is that in the day and time of now, this is not including back in the day when you came to see me, but now I have forced a society to accept us as legitimate, as, if I'm able to do this under clinical circumstances, why is it blah, 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 blah. Big
Gotcha.
long story, who cares, right?
Yeah.
But the point is that you have to be a very strong individual as personality-wise. You have to have a really strong personality to be able to withstand being psychic. It's very difficult. It's not always a blessing. That's for darn sure. It's often
hurts more often
I've called
than
it my
not.
curse as well. You know what I mean? Seriously, right? It goes back and forth. But I think that I got across to my students the factor that it's not a point of being psychic. It's what you're doing with it that really matters. And being psychic is something that is not normal. It isn't. It is absolutely abnormal. It is 3% of the entire world's population. I mean, think about that. 3%. What is the odds that some kids from Canada, you know, would hear my voice out there and come in to the office and embark on a journey that is glorious at first because you're involved with something. It's like this cult mentality, and I have to fight so hard to make everybody. We don't want all your money. You go home, you sleep at home, you stay with your family, and we help you with your family problems. Like, you don't leave your family and, you know, join a gang, right? So this is not a cult, but what we discovered is that my students always have contact with me. Always.
Yeah. To put this little bit to give you my side of that.
So we are connected no matter what.
Yeah.
We're all connected. All those students and you.
There was a little bit of a hesitation, as
sure. Oh yeah.
I knew I wanted to come see you, but at that point in time, me and my mom were very close. So I was actually talking to my mother, and I go, I want to do this. I want to. This was sorry. I got to correct the timeline. I did come and see you, and then we had the discussion
about. I told you about the classes.
And you becoming my teacher.
Yes. Yeah.
That's when I went back to my mother.
Yeah.
And I wanted to talk to my mother about this. I let her know about it, what I wanted to do. She just looked at...
Did she freak out?
She looked at
okay.
and she said to me, "That doesn't surprise me, Scott.
Oh, wow.
You've always known things you shouldn't have known." She was very supportive, and she bugged me thereafter for information about it.
Yeah, I hear that.
Yeah.
But I also remember when you came in, and you know, you got to remember that a lot of young people had never heard anybody standing up and speaking about psychism in a matter-of-fact way, with appropriate terminology, as opposed to what was really going on out there in the parapsychology world, and which was actual, you know, a group of psychologists, you know, I believe at the Berkeley Institute in California, that had decided that they would study this field, and, you know, got their PhDs and whatnot in it.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, you want to remember as well that those are the same people that came and talked to me and studied me for a fair amount of time. And, you know, you can't just be a doctor of this, studying it as an observer, and think you know what it's like. It's not. So I had to change all of the definitions. I had to... I don't even know what word to use.
Okay, no.
Redefine what psychism was, and that's what you heard on the radio.
And why?
That's what I was doing.
Why?
Was redefining what society thought psychism was, and what the parapsychologists thought psychism was.
Okay, I know exactly what you're talking about, because I love sciences. I love math.
Exactly. That's my point.
And you were able to
speak from that level.
Exactly, as opposed, sorry.
Instead of these hoopy-doopy spiritual...
airy fairies.
Totally. Yes, indeed. Absolutely. I'm not part of the New Age industry. Never have been.
Yeah.
Don't like it. That's a multi-billion dollar a year multi-billion dollar a year industry unto its own that steals from psychics and uses psychic material to really rip off people. I mean, that's really all it's about, you know.
And over the years, I was actually talking to you about this the other day. There's very few psychics I actually have respect for.
Well, if you remember, Scott, when you came in to see me for the reading, the first time you came in to see me, what happened is that you were disgusted with what you were hearing out there and what you were seeing at psychic fairs, etc., and you couldn't understand why that kind of stuff was being promoted as psychism, when psychism to you had nothing to do with that.
Yep.
You're an empath, and in that speaking in that tone, when you're an actual psychic and you're seeing this stuff and it can't make any sense to you, and you realize that they're not actually performing or doing anything that's actually psychic, and you can, when you go home and you remember when you're a little boy and you can do that.
Okay, and
I think that needed to be explained to you.
okay,
and that's,
one sec.
we've got lights going off here.
Okay, I don't know why that card filled up. Just on a 2-minute pause.
Yes.
Okay, we're back in sync. Memory card filled up, had to do a little bit of a correction. I'm not sure if I'll use this, but
Whatever.
sometimes good to explain why.
Absolutely. Oh, I think so.
I've always tried to explain why I do things. Always. It's
Okay.
I've always tried to find understanding in things. I don't even know why I'm yakking about this, but
Well, we had left off at a topic of your first session with me prior to becoming a student and having to tell you that you were, I don't know if I should say fortunately or unfortunately, that you were psychic.
that's
And that's the way it was going. And you could either accept that, or you could continue on searching for that which did not fucking explain to you anything.
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah.
So it was difficult. I remember watching your face. So as much as you observed me, I was also observing you, and it was difficult. It was really hard. So I had to prove to you that I was actually psychic and not, yanking your chain. And seriously, that was not. It's not easy with a psychic student because you have to do things differently. With my normal session, my clients are not blocking me. They're not trying to block me. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
And if they are trying, they can't really do it that well because they're not psychic. I mean, that's just the way it is. So with some of my psychic students, not all of them, but some of them, and you were one of them, blocking me became a habit for you eventually, which is good, because why should I be in your head all the time? I mean, seriously. On the other hand, you were blocking me and I had to yell at you.
I remember.
And I had to show you anger.
I remember that.
And it was hard for me because I'm sitting here thinking, oh my God, he's reminding me of my own kid and my brother, and I don't want to freak out on him, but it was like shaking you and slapping you all at the same time.
I still remember the words to this day. This is not a competition,
Yeah.
Scott. Quit blocking me.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
You use the most forceful voice I've ever heard from you.
Yes, we hear that a lot.
I
don't know what that makes me. Does it
No,
make me-
no, that probably was the only way to actually get it through to me.
Okay, that's good. I am glad to get some feedback on that
Yeah.
because when you have to use that authoritative voice, well, it's scary and you sometimes think you're being mean, but it does have the desired effect. It does create a place where the student can stop.
Yeah.
Can just, oh my God, like I can just be me. I don't have to guard everything. I don't have to, because as a psychic, you grow up thinking you're a freak. You brought the word up earlier. Let's use it. And you think there's something wrong with you. And why aren't you doing what other people are doing? How come they can't do that? So do I fit in with them? And let me talk. When you're a little child, okay, that's one thing. Like, it's what you're getting used to. By the time you're 5, you realize something's different. But mommy and daddy aren't screaming at you for it. You get past 5, and you go from 5 to 10. people are thinking it's cute and they start pointing out, look at my kid is so smart, he gets this and he gets that, and they think your comprehension level is really high, which of course it is, but that's not the point. Then, oh my goodness, from 10 plus, okay, now you've got serious problems because you're starting to, you're a preteen and your hormones are starting to move around. Now, things are different nowadays. Preteen nowadays is about 9 years old, and girls are maturing at they're starting to mature at about 8 years old instead of 11 and 12.
Oh, okay.
So things have changed a bit, and boys are also maturing early as well. And again, we're looking at that 9 to 10-year-old age group for boys. So, life has changed, and at that point, they start to understand, it's not just that other people can't do what I'm doing. I'm weird. There's something wrong with me. I don't fit in with the other kids. Why are they talking about these mundane things like, blah, like who cares about dollies, like I'm looking at the universe, And I'm understanding why that man just drove over that cat. I saw the whole thing. I understand it. Instead of getting all stressed out about the dead kitty, which of course you do, you're also experiencing those emotions. You're also understanding exactly what happened to that guy, how he missed the cat, how he didn't see it, what was on his mind, and you start to realize, why do I know what he was doing at home before he hit the cat? Why do I know how stressed out he was? And what he was stressed out about. Why do I know that? And then when the guy gets out of his car because he's upset he hit a cat, as he's explaining that to the other adults that are standing there, you realize, oh, I was right. That is what happened. And you can't run away from that. Where do you run to? How do you run away from your own head?
Okay, what?
And I was pleased to be able to give you a place to go and empty your head. I was
now,
very pleased.
Just to give you my perspective on that.
Yeah, please do.
The environment I came from, partying, drugs, smokables, stuff like that, it was a big part of the environment.
Right.
So I knew everything I was doing was real.
Yeah.
I actually quit smoking when I was in your class.
Yeah.
So the events and experiences I knew were real. Now here,
I do ask my students to be sober and straight.
yeah,
because we do weird shit.
but now this is the mind and how my mind was working all through that time. I wanted to fight the experiences. I wanted to find a way almost to discredit, almost to say this isn't real.
Bravo.
Question everything. Mm-hmm. Now, because of certain experiences you gave me, I couldn't discredit. It always...
I know that, Scott. That's a hard place to be, though,
It always brought me back to, no, you have to look at this. As much as a part of me wanted to say, no, I'm not a freak.
Yes, I know.
I wasn't allowed to. And
Scott, I was an uncontrolled telekinetic by the time I was 5. And I mean, actually quite a skilled uncontrolled telekinetic, if we could. That's a kind of oxymoronic term, but there it is, right? I would get a spanking and be sent to my room, probably for good reason. I was a really good kid, but I was probably fighting with the sisters or something like that, right? So I'd be sent to my room, and the next thing you know, like seriously, my Barbie dolls are all being broken, and I'm not touching them, and I'm in the room alone, and my mother would come in and she'd want to know why things were broken. And I'd have to explain that. And I couldn't. But she was also the person that when I was 3, I wanted to be outside because I had a thing for rushing under the sheets that were hanging on the lines. And to understand, it was huge amounts. Everybody hung their sheets out on the line. And I lived in a low rental unit where it was like side-by-side condos. And so we had a common yard. And you could just, they were like flags. It was glorious.
Okay.
And the wind would come, you know, that Alberta wind, baby. And it would come and it would blow all those flags toward me. And I'd smell all that ozone and it was heaven. And so I would like to go outside and run underneath them and get that ozone all over my face. Smash into those sheets. Oh my God, they were fabulous.
Okay, gotcha.
And my buddy, my guide, my imaginary friend, because that's what they called him, imaginary. So my imaginary friend lifted me up, picked me up, so that I could unhook the latch way at the top, 6 feet up. I'm 3 years old, so that I could get out of the house. Pretty imaginary, if you ask me, right? So anyways, I thought my imaginary guy looked like some kind of cowboy and his horse.
Oh.
The heroes of the day, right?
Okay, gotcha.
But my grandfather was a cowboy and my dad was a cowboy. So for me, that would be a normal image for a young girl, you know, a baby to want to identify with. Somebody that you're already used to, something you already understand.
Okay, gotcha.
But that person was lifting me up to undo a latch. I wasn't piling things up to crawl up there. And my mother couldn't figure out how the hell I was getting outside at like 5 in the morning to run under these sheets and get all dirty and blah, blah, blah. They were freaking out. This is not a, you know, this is a communal neighborhood. It's dangerous, really dangerous. So she stayed up on the couch and caught me. And when she saw what was happening, she got up from the sofa and fell down and hit her chin on the coffee table. Like, I mean, it was really a bad scene. Like, a really bad scene because she saw me levitating. Okay. I mean, you know, like, what do you say, right? So at 5 years old, when I'm an uncontrolled telekinetic, she knew that I wasn't necessarily breaking the toys.
Right.
Because she'd come in once, and I remember her coming in, and she saw things moving on the other side of the room. Not big movement, not like floating in the air and stuff. That's not what it's like. It's like, you know, you just see something like that.
Okay.
Okay, now that might not be a dramatic thing when you're walking into a room, but you notice when a whole bunch of things on the floor are doing that.
Okay, understand.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's when I was told not to tell anybody about that. Don't tell anybody about this. They will hurt you. And they would have. Because I did start talking. And yeah, it was difficult. It was very difficult. And the neighbors knew what I was. You can't hide it, right? When you came in to see me, I had flashes of that. And I felt, and I don't want to offend you. I felt sorry for you.
Oh, no worries.
I felt sympathetic. Like, and I really mean it, that you have to be able to get that stuff out of your head and place it in perspective. Like, were you having childhood hallucinations? Were you having, you know, was it, you know, where's your validation that you're actually doing that stuff? Can you validate that you're really doing that stuff, or are you imagining it? Seriously. Are you so freaking stressed out that you can't manage? And that happens. That really happens. And we didn't understand a huge amount about mental illness in those days. We think we did, but we're only starting to make breakthroughs on that recently. And I mean, you know, we are post-mapping of the human genome. Yep. That's where we are, man. That's where we live. And we are post having captured a piece of light that gave us a completely new vision regarding physics. And we understood that most of what we knew about physics might be wrong and is wrong. And it's only today, not when you came in to see me, that I've become an acceptable person in society. We weren't back then. We just weren't.
No.
And we were demonized.
Understand.
And it was a terrible thing. And I was really pleased that you could identify and manipulate for yourself events that allowed you to put yourself in perspective, because that's what it was all about for you. And it wasn't about being skeptical. Like, I make it clear, the first thing I say to my beginner students is, I am the worst skeptic you will ever meet. Mm-hmm. If you can't fucking prove it to me, it ain't happening. That's the way it is.
Yep.
And in that respect, I want to make this very clear. When you are able to prove to yourself that you're doing, and then you're able to prove it to other people that you're doing those things, that's when you become a human being. That's when you start to know yourself. And you have to have a responsibility regarding this. You can't just be psychic and abuse it. It's, don't think of it as a gift. It's not.
I never have.
I know. And I dig that, right? And you're one of my few. Listen, I'm in contact with all my students. I totally dig that. But there are students that have also become my friends. You know? Yeah. Because we experienced more, I guess. I guess it's war stories that we have.
Yeah.
That we share. And they are war stories, you know?
Pretty much.
Like, I've had to have police protection. Lord, I mean, my dog was even threatened, for crying out loud. Like, seriously. People don't like us. But they don't mind us now. They're not as scared of us now.
Yeah, not as much. Well, I don't know.
Well, they're not as scared of gypsies and teacup readers in the New Age industry.
No, that's right.
They still don't like me. There's nothing I can do about that. That's just the way it is. I might as well have been born green, you know.
No, understand that. Something. No, that's what I've always been scared of. Through going through my past, is just being seen as the freak.
Not being accepted.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody's afraid of that. What is the worst thing you can do to a human being, Scott?
Ostracizing them.
Yeah, shunning them.
Yep.
We call it ostracizing and shunning.
Yep.
It is the worst thing you can do to a person. And I mean, how can you be in a position where you shun yourself and you don't want to be yourself? And I'm sure there's a lot of kids out there that can relate to that. And they become adults. And that's sad. And, you know, we thought it was a big deal that gay people could come out of the closet, the gay and lesbian community could come out of the closet. Coming out of the closet as psychic is actually quite a bit more difficult. It carries real bad consequences.
That it does. It took me, I said, I'm not going to use dates. I've never...
Yeah, that's cool.
Never given my age out or anything like that.
Yeah.
My last...
Of course, I was careful with that.
Yeah. My last birthday, not the one that just passed, the one before that,
Yeah.
that was the one where I consider I died. Not physically. My life died.
Oh.
Everything,
Yeah.
bang, just sort of imploded, and it's like, okay, I didn't physically die, but I mentally died, and everything around me died, and it sort of came to a conclusion. It took me my death,
Yeah.
metaphorically speaking.
Yes. I totally get that, man. Yeah.
Before I'm not worried about it anymore. I had to metaphorically die before
It took you that long, Scott?
Yeah.
How? Oh.
Just, because now let's take the intellectual side of this. I love sciences.
Yeah.
My brain is stuck in sciences.
Yes, of course.
That you take the open stance, what always worried me is not actually being acceptable, as in getting a job, making a paycheck, being able to fend for myself. Because even the people that did know, I guess I can almost say, because of who I was, people saw me prior to. They knew me. They knew the core of who Scott Ward was.
Prior to the year you died.
No. Prior, going way back in past, prior to them finding about my teachings from you.
Yes, okay.
So even though I guess that's my character and who I was stood up for me,
Yeah.
but I was still put on the outside a little bit.
Okay.
Not ridiculed or anything, but okay.
Just different.
The black sheep of the family, stuff like that, all the good stuff, and go into other circles. But the one thing that the acceptance level that I did gain was because people knew me from the past.
Yes.
They knew who I really was.
Yeah. So they accepted what? Exactly.
Oh, God. I can't answer that.
No, I've noticed that. I've noticed that through our entire conversation, you haven't once called yourself psychic. Isn't that funny?
No, it's not. When I was talking to Tam, she puts me in a category, but I'm even not even saying the word.
Ah, it's all good.
Okay.
It's all good.
She put me in the category, but very reluctant. And what I'm talking about that is when I was responsible for being her teacher. The only way I can say this, she puts me in very high regard in the psychic area.
Okay.
And also very reluctant to actually push forward with it. As in,
yes, okay.
very gifted, but you're so reluctant. So I've never openly used that word. Me saying I am psychic, I've never really embraced that. Did you notice I just said those words?
Yes, I did.
I haven't.
Is it a matter of embracing them or embracing the concept? Because the concept of being psychic is so bastardized and so corrupted right now. How can one call themselves psychic and keep their head up and walk tall? Seriously, I am ashamed. I am ashamed when I look out there and I see what people think psychism is. It is absolutely mind-boggling. Why do people continue? Really, I don't even know if I sound ridiculous when I say this, but the superstitious nonsense that they insist upon. It's everything I do is physics.
Silly processes is the only way I can.
Rituals. They want rituals.
Exactly.
And human beings need to have rituals, which, okay, in the old days, in the ancient times, I understand that, that the shaman of the days had to come up with something. Really, not just to capture the attention of the people, to have them listen to them, but to be able to protect them, to be able to work with them, to be able to help them at all. You had to be ceremonial. And ceremonial was, the rock stars of the day, baby. I mean, the drums were going, the feathers were flying, the, paint was, thick on your face, the clay and everything. I mean, it was a really big deal. But they were the people that knew how the world was.
Okay.
The mechanics. And when I taught you the psychic mechanics. I also taught you my spiritual concepts, which are two different things.
Yep.
Now, if we just strictly look at the psychic mechanics and not the spiritual concepts of it, if we don't take a look at the philosophy of it, if we take a look strictly at the mechanics, if we understand that this is what is happening when you are using telekinesis, this is what is happening when you're using telepathy, this, blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
The facts remain that today, that is still really scary stuff for a society that's going broke, that the entire of Europe at our time now is, young men can't get a job. It's only older men that have the jobs because they had those jobs for 40 years. There's no opportunity for young people. This is a very scary place to be. And then Alberta, the richest province in the world, which Dubai had always held that title, suddenly went broke. Why do we think that is? We're in control by governments, but governments are in control by corporations. So we have to understand our place in the world. And I'm used to being in a place where I don't have to worry about any of that because I'm over here watching them all. Instead, I'm the fly on the wall, and I've always kept myself segregated from all of those things. And I taught my students to do that as well. So maybe what I did, Scott, is I assisted you in isolating yourself. That's not a good thing. That's not a good thing.
How so?
Well, maybe I taught you to be overly cautious.
No,
about what
no,
you are,
no.
and to understand the world as really a hostile place. And for those of us that are actually psychic as opposed to intuitive, okay, we all know that's our private joke. What's the definition of intuitive? It's just another word for survival instinct. I don't know why people want to make such a big deal out of it. It doesn't mean anything. Just because a person can feel energy doesn't mean a damn thing. So can a single cell amoeba. So does a worm. So does a birdie. I mean, for goodness sakes. Doesn't make them capable of healing you, for goodness sakes. Like, get your shit together. So, blah, blah, blah. My rant. I'm allowed to have one.
I have them all the time.
My rant regarding the New Age industry, the lack of understanding regarding energy works, etc. Psychic mechanics, they don't understand it. They don't understand the spiritual concepts that we have that either. That comes out of, I specialize in homicide and missing people. So, that I specialize in dealing with dead people. And when you have breakfast with them and you ask them what happened to them, and you can give that to a police department that can use that realistically and then take that to court and win, well, that's a little bit different than phoning, 911 hotline, the police hotline, saying, I had a dream, and blah, 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 blah. And the cops have to follow up on that.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't used to have to do that, but they do have to do that now.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's departments where that's an order, like the RCMP, etc. So you have to be in a position where, are you going to waste human resources, or are you going to be accurate enough that you can actually do that? Because these people that make a big deal out of having worked on one case in their life, so what? I mean, if you're actually psychic, then maybe you didn't have a perfectly normal precognitive dream, because human beings do that. Maybe you did have all that information regarding that murder. The problem is you can't do it again. One-trick ponies are not psychics. That's just the way it is. You have to be able to use the abilities as needed. And if you are stuck with only one ability, that's not so easy, let me tell you. But with one ability usually comes a second synergistic ability. And in that respect, that's where you came in, Scott. You had, yeah, exactly. You have an ability of empathy. So I don't know what to really call that. You feel other people's emotions. I mean, I call it empathic. It's kind of like telepathy, but you're not really reading what they're thinking and what they're going through mentally as much as you're feeling what they're going through mentally. And you're feeling what they feel on a momentary basis as well. Now, what's the difference? What did I just say? If you listened carefully, you would have heard me say that you know what the guy's feeling here in the past and what he's feeling right now. And you're able to, at that point, gauge what he's going to do over the next half hour to an hour. So now you're dealing with, precognition, which is now and in the future, and clairvoyance, which is the immediate present and the past. So that's your synergistic ability, Scott. That you are able to be both clairvoyant and precognitive with that human being's emotions. Do you dig what I'm saying?
Yeah, to put it into different words, from you, one thing I really appreciated and helped me gain an understanding, your term, full scope view.
Absolutely.
You can't just look at one side.
No, and you're not going to learn that in a beginner class either, that's for sure. Yeah. That takes years and years of discipline. It really does. Where you have to be that fly on the wall, looking at the big picture on a consistent basis. You cannot predict something and say, you know what, sweetie pie, your husband's messing around on you. Well, what does that mean? That means nothing. You've just got these people terribly excited. You're going to break up a whole family. You better know what you're talking about exactly. You better know why that happened. What's the problems in the family dynamics here, or is there any? Like what is going on here? Everything. Why does that family have to split up? Why did that man go out and mess around on his wife? Or why did she mess around on him? It ain't just men that mess around. But there's always a reason for that. Yep. Always. And then, if we've got children involved, and sometimes even with no children involved, we have to make sure people don't become corrupted for future relationships. That's full scope view. You have to know that what you say to that person, how are they going to respond to that?
Yep.
And in that regard, that's full scope view. If I'm saying something to you, I know how you're going to respond to it. And I will say it with responsibility and I'll take the repercussions. But I generally only say those things that are, we don't want to say good for you, needed.
I know exactly what you mean.
But your viewers don't. So.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay.
Needed. And in that respect, I thought you were a very good student. You worked really hard for years. I mean, that's not something that you just picked up. In a couple of classes, we worked really hard for years and years on this. And I have another student, 17 years with me. She became my apprentice and my hands-on apprentice. And to this day, she's doing extraordinarily well and really knows her stuff. But there's maybe a handful of people, if that. I don't think there's a handful of people that could take over for me if something happened to me.
Understand.
That's a scary thought.
Nobody has ever held my respect to the level you have. No pedestals here, just respect. Nobody has ever held that like you have. I didn't understand your challenge at first when you told me.
I don't know what to say to that. I'm sorry.
Don't worry about it. When you gave me the challenge to go out and experience other psychics, I was so disappointed. There was no sight.
I feel sad about that,
There was no understanding.
Yeah, that's sad.
And
if there's so many psychics out there, well...
But there's, agreed. Okay, this may sound wrong. Maybe those words are wrong. There is a lot of good people out there. I know that. You can feel them.
I think the worst ones are those that have convinced themselves they are psychic and are out there trying to help people.
They're more abundant.
And are they?
Yeah.
And I find that very sad. The con artists, I don't give a dime a dozen for those. Like, seriously, they are unbelievably abundant. But those people that actually think that they are psychic and helping someone because they can feel energy or that they are attuned to what people will do, that's not what psychism is. And teacups and cards and runes and, gosh, chicken bones. I've seen people use chicken bones. I'm serious.
1 sec. Okay, if you
That
guys...
has nothing to do with being psychic.
If you guys haven't noticed, you may have figured out why I use my hands so much now.
Oh, okay. All right. Yes, I talk with my hands. And I'm actually guilty. I point fingers and like I do stuff, yeah.
But I'm on.
Yeah,
I actually...
But don't you find that they're great expressionists?
Oh, they are.
Yes.
So as I was sitting here watching you during this conversation, I'm watching your arms going, I'm going, oh, okay, that's where I got it from.
That's why I keep my nails done, man. Everybody's looking at my hands. Yeah, I'm serious. You know, what can I say?
Yeah.
It's embarrassing. So, in all, what did you feel when your world died? When your world dramatically changed?
Okay, to be honest, kind of a process, just like life usually is.
Yes.
There is a big part of depression.
Of course.
There was, because of external factors and other people that were involved, there was a lot of disappointment in how people are so willing to use you.
Yes.
And then I didn't give a fuck. No other way to put it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And
you have to become embittered. So
and then
don't care.
Then it just didn't matter.
That's how you get there. And I do teach people that, you know, there's destructive anger that's going to corrupt your life. It's going to mess you up so badly. Why bother? But there are other kinds of anger that can motivate you and that can be very constructive.
1 second. Okay, we're on a 2-minute piss break. And have no idea where we're going with this. With all my videos, I'm just gonna, a little something for you guys. There's a reason I wear a helmet and I don't show my face very often. I've never wanted you guys to personally identify with me. I wanted the story, the emotion, the feeling to be more important than me. I've wanted to share something with you without me being the identifier. So,
That's just like you, Scott.